video players on the other computer. Oh, man. Actually, that'd be kind of cool. Random GSRC race. All right. Stand by for a hot mic. Mike is, whoops, we don't need that. Playing bumper.
The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. That is crazy
Side by
stuff.
side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck. Playing intro music. Mike is hot. Showing iRacing scene. Joe, when you're ready, take it away. Shit, guys, hold on. We got, sorry, fuck. Mic is off, and I know exactly what I did wrong. Shit.
Well, it may be called the wine country out here just north of San Francisco, but the only wine these drivers will be around for the next hour or so is that of their own transmissions buzzing away in their ears. Mazda MX-5s and Kia Optimas will battle it out for 150 miles in two different classes over the rolling hills of California. I'm Joe Peak, and you're watching the Gathering of Tweakers Sonoma 150 live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Our cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard and are directed by Kevin Brown. Joining me in the booth today are Richard Losper and Brian Corwin. Brian, this series has become a tradition of sorts for here at Week 13 at GSRC. It was bring us exciting combos and wonderfully challenging tracks. Tell us a little bit about what the drivers can expect here at Sonoma.
Well, today our layout is 4.072 kilometers or 2.53 miles. It's 12 corners featuring elevation changes that whip you up and down, left and right through a challenging carousel and hairpin section. It's going to be very challenging for the MX-5 drivers as well as the Kias who are riding in the front-wheel drive cars. Today's race, if we make it through the 2 hour and 15-minute mark, should end about 60 laps. So it will be a little bit of a what comes first, but with the quality of these drivers, I bet we'll get those 60 laps in no problem, Joe.
No doubt. And as we mentioned with these two classes, they have teams among them. Now, Richard, they do that in an interesting way here at Gathering of Tweakers. Tell us how that works.
Hi guys. Well, it's quite simple, really. What we do have are two teams. So two classes of cars. So each car is driven by a driver, and together they form a team. So there's one driver in each class, and in actual fact, the team with the highest combined score wins the race, not necessarily the driver who actually wins, although that is important as well. but more important is to see that the combined points being scored by the driver in each class, the top team will get the kudos. So we'll be watching all the action, and also we'll be watching a live timing and scoring application, which will tell us live who is doing what in each class, and it will adjust the scores as the race continues. And it's going to be very interesting to see you know, the drivers coming out and trying to be as good as they can near the top of the field. Doesn't mean you have to be leading your class, but as long as you're quite near the top and your partner in the other car is in fact near the top, you may well be leading the race on points as a team.
And if you'd like to follow along with us on that points battle, you can go to http://livetiming.nickthyssen.nl. Nick has put together an excellent live timing application where you can see how all the teams are doing. And as far as that point structure goes, they get 30 points for first in their class, 27 for second, 25 for third, 23 for fourth, and then from there on down, it's a single point less for every position farther down that you finish. We do have a lap guide around here as we watch them complete their qualifying. Each of them have a lone qualifying with 4 laps to get it done, but let's see what it's like on board. All right, we've got Stefan Overgaard behind the wheel of the GSRC Kia, so let's do a lap around Sonoma. The front straight here is anything but, and the approach to turn 2 will need a big lift on the run-up to get the car into the right position. And from here, you might as well grab a red-tipped cane because you can't see the apex, you can't see anything of the corner until you come over the top. You don't have time to dwell on that though, because it's back on the gas and back to the right for turns 3 and 3A. Once again, it's nothing but sky in your windshield. Any accidents in front of you are going to be completely unsighted until it's too late. It's a short burst of 4 and easy to overshoot this one with the downhill braking. From there, we straighten out 5 and set the car up for the entry into the carousel. Unlike most turns with this name, this one has a huge drop in elevation. Combine that extra speed with the front wheel drive, and greedy drivers will find themselves pushing wide into the dirt on the exit. Now we're on the backstretch. Since we're on the long version, we'll be heading left and we're going to hug the wall. Coming up is the hairpin of 7, and it's one of the few places you'll have available to sneak a pass in. Double apex around here, and it's very tough to try and spot that second one. Now we're into the S's. Take as much curb as you dare and try to straighten them out. Just like all back and forth sets of corners, focus on hugging the inside of the current one to get a good entry into the next one. Ultimately, you're trying to set the car up to be on the left at the exit of 9. That's because 10 is both fast and dangerous. It'll require using every single inch of track to hit it just right. Push too far wide and say hello to concrete. From there, stay left and brake hard for the hairpin of 11. You've got 180 degrees to navigate, so set up for the exit and get on the power as soon as you can. But there's no runoff, so once again, margin for error is nil. As long as you succeeded there, you've now finished a lap around Sonoma. Qualifying has completed, so the cars are lining up on the grid. This is going to be a rolling start, so we got a bit of time to go through the order. In the top class, the Kias, the faster cars, that was the practice that I was looking at. Bob Van Katwijk actually has grabbed pole, followed by Tim Claessens in second on the front row. Koen Gerarts starts in third, followed by Paul Ilbrink in fourth. Stefan Overgaard starts in fifth, followed by Anders Dahl in sixth. Then Dennis Garrison in seventh. Eighth is Joris Thelen, Bas Lab in ninth, and Eric Mulder in 10th, Brian.
Dujan Boldrin is 11th, and 12th we have Marco Derricks. 13th is Robert de Rooch. And 14th we have Jasper Gronwig. And 15th is Jasvin Horn. And 16th Kevin Jones. And 17th we have Klaus Peterson. 18th Philip Woodison. And 19th we have myself, Brian Corwin, who's actually not in the race. So over to you, Richard.
Yep, and going to the MX-5 class as we see the pace car taking off. We'll push this along. We've got Mac Beckham in the pole position for the MX-5 class. He's followed by Rudy de Wit, Jean-Paul Niehaus in third place, Eagle Sandveld in fourth. In fifth place, Pedro van Beiden. In 6th place, we've got Arthur Hamont. 7th place, Pascal Alan. 8th place, Timo Verhoost. 9th place, George Britton, and we'll talk a little bit more about George in a few minutes' time. And in 10th place in the MX-5 class is Pascal Tienersen, Joe.
Then in 11th, it's Michael Melis. And 12th is Andy Morgan, followed by Jeroen Ursum, then Michel Postema, Martin Hilligers, Ronnie Van Hezek, Robert Witt, Arno Gibbon, and that rounds out the field in the MX-5s. They're heading down the backstretch towards turn 7. Very good passing zone out there. And it should be interesting between these two different classes, especially with Bob Van Katwijk putting in a nice lap on pole with a 1:38.1. But one of the talking points, Brian, it's very difficult to pass here. There are a few good passing zones in these cars, but it's going to take some give and take, I think, between drivers.
Absolutely, and those turning points for the race will be in turn 7 or 11, and the hairpin section and the S section. Those are doable areas, but you got to be really good on the brakes. And personally, driving the Kia Optima myself, I know how difficult it is to keep that weight off the front of the car when you're under heavy braking. Being a front-wheel drive, it already understeers a ton, so passing is going to be very challenging, especially in the Kias today, Joe.
As they come around turn 10, that is one of the danger zones. You can see how little runoff there is around that fast right-hander. So guys throughout the day will be having to watch out. Now the pace car peels off into the pit lane, which is a very interesting pit lane. We're going to talk about that later because guys will really have to try and master that one. Van Katwijk leads them around the final 2 corners here. Coming around 12 very soon, then they will get the green flag and take off with the Kias. Green flag is out. Katwijk accelerates away. Claessens gets a really good jump on the outside, but he's going to lose ground as they come up to turn 1. Now heavy braking for turn 2. Is everybody going to be able to get through clean? It's a huge crest over here. You can't see much, so if something goes down, guys are not going to be able to see at all. Everybody's giving each other space, and it looks good. What's the MX-5 start like?
Well, folks, we did have a start there. Mac Beckham was in the lead. But I have to say I am experiencing technical problems right now, Joe. Sorry about that. My iRacing has actually shut down.
And there's a spin in the Kias. Arthur Hermont was also off in the MX-5s. Brian, what's happened in the Kias?
I have to go back and look, Joe. I just cut out the corner of my eye, though. It did look like a lot of mess, though. And with the short runouts here, there is going to be a lot of damage here. Going back to replay for you, Joe.
Yeah, we're looking to see what happened. I'm not sure whose car we are on at the moment. It looks like Duljan Boldrin coming up over, and that was someone behind him, I believe, who spun off just before turn 3A. But it doesn't look like anybody. Oh, no, it looks like more excitement happened in front of him, and he was dodging way off to the right side of the track, going around the sign and rejoining. And that was someone just to his left. That's yours, Thielen, that was off track that we just saw, but a few guys obviously already experiencing trouble before we complete a single lap.
Yeah, and Joe, we were talking about how the new build each season comes out and makes effects for the cars. Now, all of these cars have the new tire model. A lot of these guys haven't had a lot of time to race on it. That build was last week, so it's very difficult to see how these cars are going to be set up and running today here at Sonoma.
And it looks like yours, Thielen, got very close to the back of Tennyson and then just kind of spun it around, unfortunately. So it's, I'm sorry, Garrison, not Tennyson. So he is back and running, however, coming around that hairpin and completing lap 1. However, he is in the thick of the MX-5s. We are having a few technical issues. We have to apologize. We're currently watching Mac Backham work his way around, and he is actually leading the MX-5s at the moment. Richard, I'm not sure if we got you back yet. Have you got your gremlins out of the way?
Unfortunately, I am still struggling to get iRacing back up and running, so I'm sorry about that, guys.
No problem. We'll continue on as we watch Backham work his way around turn 5, excuse me, now into the carousel of turn 6, followed very closely by Jean-Paul Niehaus. You can see him in that black and teal MX-5 following him as they come down that very big hill, Brian, that really just dumps these cars out onto this back straightaway.
Absolutely, Joe. And, you know, like we were talking about before the race, it's one of those tracks that has a lot of crests and blank corners. It's very easy to get the corner wrong. And it's an automatic spin job. You hear about landmines and things like that in some of our iRacing tracks, but here it's a whole nother story. It's just if you get too much weight going forward or to the side, it just keeps carrying, and there's not really much you can do to catch it, especially with these narrow and short runoffs. It's really easy to lose your car and also ruin your race.
Right now, we are sitting on board with Paul Ilbrink. He is sitting in 4th in his class. However, right now, he on the Radicals team, teamed up with Mac Backham, who we saw earlier, are leading the points at 53 points. Now, however, these points can change after the end because they do count incident points as penalty points. If they get more than 6 incidents, that means that points will start to be taken off, and it increases as they go. So everything that we announce will be provisional at the end of this race as far as the points championship. But Brian, what do we mean when we talk about incident points here in iRacing?
Well, absolutely, Joe. And usually we talk about incident points relating to how your performance on the track is. So every time your tires go off a certain part of the track, usually it's 2 to 4 tires off, you'll get what they call a 1X, and those stack up. In the official series, you get 17 incident points, and those affect your safety rating. But since we're doing a hosted race, that's not really coming into play. What they are looking at, however, though, is how many incident points you rack up, and then they deduct it out of a points penalty. So if you have a good race and you finish first place, well, both of your guys on your team have 17-point deductions for your 17 offs. That's really going to hurt you in the points chase. So you don't even necessarily have to be coming in first to win this race. It's all about being consistent, clean, and also having good sportsmanship on the track. And there's a lot of give and take as we see Paul Ilbrink trying to make it work through the hairpin, doesn't quite make it. So yeah, these guys just need to get into the rhythm, keep their spacing going, and then wait for the perfect time to pass. And here it's going to be a definite challenge today, Joe.
Yeah, Paul was very close to Tim Clayson's all the way through the S's up into the hairpin. Now they're approaching turn 2, the heavy braking right-hander that's hard to see over, and he's dropped just a little bit of time. But Paul Ilbrink is part of the Radicals team, and these guys are pretty well known in the iRacing circles. They're a fearsome bunch, and Paul is not content to just sit here in the lead in points, even though they've got currently 53 over the next team down. iRacing Denmark is at 46. So these guys just want to dominate. He is already looking for more positions.
Absolutely, and I'm just kind of watching Clausen's here as he's coming through the carousel. Let's see, does he get a good run? It looks like he might have actually oversteered a little bit to the inside and rubbed off some speed, so we'll see if Paul Ilbrink gets a chance to make that pass. Right up in front of them, we see Bob Van Katwijk is actually getting caught up once again. He had a really good start. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it on screen, but Bob was able to have a commanding lead. It looks like the pack is starting to catch him now, so it's pretty evenly spread throughout the whole entire Kia field now, looking all the way back to the hairpin. Everyone's about the same distance apart. It's just making for some great racing.
There are also live marshals in this race, just as a reminder, and we've already got some warnings going out for that early incident. Pedro Van Balen and Duljan Boldrin were both given warnings, so they got off easy for avoidable contact, but those guys will have to be on their tippy toes as once again Paul looks to the inside. But right now, actually, we're on Jasper Greneweg, and we are back to Paul now. We just missed it for the second lap in a row. He looked to the inside of that hairpin, but could not quite make it happen.
Yeah, and right when that was happening, I saw it right behind Stefan Overgaard, and I think it was Anders Dahl got really close to hitting one another as well with a rear end type incident. So I think that little pass by Paul Ilbrink kind of log jammed the whole entire hairpin for a second. And you know, that accordion effect really catches up to you quick here in these front wheel drive cars.
Meanwhile, I'm hopping back to the MX-5s, and I am looking at Ronnie Van Hezek looking to the inside of Martin Hilligers coming to turn 7 and can't quite make anything happen right there. But this is for currently between 12th and 13th place for these guys. Are a little bit farther down, but just as fierce racing over here.
Absolutely, and Ronnie Van Hezek's a pretty decent driver. I've always liked watching this group of drivers because it's so spread out throughout the field with such great, vast talent. And right now, it looks like Ronnie's actually got a pretty good run, so we'll see if it happens for a pass here going into the hairpin. It's going to be hard to say. It depends how well of a defense we get from the car in front there, that blue and yellow Mazda, Joe. It's pretty early in the race, so everyone's being nice and clean. It's good to watch.
We've also already got our first penalty here. We've got a drive-through penalty for the number 05 Pedro Van Valen, avoidable contact. He's taking that right now. So, and we are on board with Ronnie as he continues to battle down the front stretch, coming up towards turn 2.
Yeah, and Robert Witt is right in front of him, I believe. He'll get the right driver. As iRacing has a little hiccup for myself, actually. But, yeah, it's good driving right now, Joe, and not a lot can be said. I'm a little ways back. That was caught back up to that Ronnie Van Hezek battle with, I believe that's Martin Hilligers. It looks like they're both going very intensely at it, so good racing overall. They're side by side coming down into this tricky section here. It's very easy to get this wrong. Looks like they're going to play nice and not let each other back out. Joe, take it away.
Van Hezek trying for the over-under, but doesn't quite get the launch that he wants. He is all over the back of Hilligers, looking for every opportunity. Tries to outbrake him into the carousel. He's got the inside line. They get oh so close, but he's able to peel it back to that inside curb. Hilligers drifts wide, and it looks like, unless he tries to get him back into turn 7, Hezek has the position.
Absolutely, and Hezek is going to have to defend now as he goes a little wide there. Let's see if they can make it through the turn here. Looks like everyone's going to play it safe once again because they don't want to lose those crucial points throughout this race. They're going to have to try and get done through the S's, and I'm looking at Martin Hilligers right now. Everyone's just going to fight their way through the S section and just can't get it done.
It is going to get interesting up front right now. Bob Van Katwijk is coming up on lap traffic and the other class. In fact, all the top guys are working their ways through as Arno Gibbon is being absolutely freight trained by these bigger and more powerful Kias and making their way through. Tim Clayson still very much under threat from Paul Ilbrink heading down into the hairpin. Is he going to take another move? It looks like Clayson's goes defensive following into the hairpin. They've got more traffic. Ilbrink taking a nice tight line but can't quite get the nose in there and has to slot back in, still sitting in 4th.
Now this would be very interesting, Joe, watching the rear-wheel drive MX-5s weave through this traffic and manage their positioning while you have these front-wheel drive Kias trying to get through the same little bit of ground. Both have a significantly different turning radius, so it's going to be very challenging to get through traffic as we see Bob Van Katwijk trying to work his way around a MX-5 coming up the hill. We have everyone else right behind getting log jammed because that MX-5 doesn't have the speed the Kia does coming through some of these corners. And when you see the MX-5s on the outside and everyone gets piled up, I don't know if there's contact. We'll go 3 wide. Anders Dahl just makes it 3 wide. I didn't see any contact. Everyone's going to get through there, but what the log jam. Joe, this is exactly what we're talking about with the challenging aspect of this track.
Wow, that credit to everybody in that position. Nobody touched each other, and everybody was oh so close on a very thin piece of track. Dahl took advantage of the situation with everybody getting jammed up, trying to look inside of Ilbrink, who is now on the outside of Tim Clayson's coming up to the hairpin. Going to try for the over-under. And can't quite make it happen once again. But I was going to say, Dahl kicked that all off, trying with that move, and everybody kept a cool head. Ilbrink especially being stuck in the middle of it all, and nobody touched each other. Fantastic stuff.
Cohen Garrett's also right behind Bob Van Katwijk. It's just kind of interesting right now. We're watching everybody go through the S section, and the Kias are just looking so much bigger than the MX-5s, and everyone's just squeezing out of the way. The MX-5 on the outside, I didn't see who that was, just barely staying out of that dirt. It's very challenging here coming into the hairpin. We got Katwijk, we have Cohen Garrett's, and all sorts of guys getting log jammed. We go through the hairpin.
Positions are changing everywhere. Ilbrink got through. I believe Dahl got through. So a lot of people really taking advantage of all these guys getting clogged up once again as they came to the final hairpin. But I was going to say Bob Van Katwijk got held up big time, but I believe that was George Britton coming out of turn 10, and that allowed Kuhn to get right up on his rear bumper, but wasn't able to make the pass. And just behind them, Ilbrink, now into 3rd, has already closed in on these guys and left Anders Dahl a bit in the dust.
Absolutely, and it looks like Andy Morgan's a little upset about some of that contact that was going into the hairpin, kind of hoping that everyone keeps cool heads. Right now we got Cohen Garrett's. I'm looking at Bob Van Katwijk coming down through the carousel, and everyone is just fighting so well. I think that is Paul Ilbrink right behind and making a challenge for 2nd place in the Kia Optima class, Joe. everyone just gets so scattered, as you said, coming to that hairpin. It's kind of just ruined everybody's rhythm now, and we see these cars backfiring around the hairpin. Very good sights right here.
Yeah, and Koen Gerards continues to be under threat by Paul Ilbrink. I kind of wonder if Paul did not get a lap in that he wanted. Remember, they only had 4 laps to try and get a clean lap. It's discounted if they have an off track around here, so they can have no 1Xs, as they say. I wonder if he just didn't get a good lap in, because he closed in on 4th and was really pushing him the whole way, and now already Koen Gerards in 2nd. He is all over the back of that car and looking for a way past. He seems to have the pace today.
Absolutely, and there we got Paul Ilbrink as we go on board with him right now, trying to get a position for 2nd place and also chase down Bob McCatwick. Now, I thought it was interesting, Joe, that Nick Thyssen actually came in and apologized for getting the session wrong. He wanted to do 1 qualifying lap, so if you imagine how difficult it is to do 1 lap around here without getting a penalty for going off track or anything, he wanted to do it 1 hot lap. So I'm sure the drivers are thanking him for reconsidering that option, because they're having enough trouble as it is just keeping on the track. Now with the pace that they're running with all the traffic, they're putting on a heck of a show.
Yeah, it probably would have been even more challenging for some of these guys who couldn't have got their lap in. However, as we are on board, you can see the MX-5s continue to really just be a bit of a hassle as Ilbrink goes by Backham, his teammate, who is still leading in these MX-5s. In fact, we haven't really touched a whole lot on these MX-5s yet. Unfortunately, I don't believe we have Richard back. He's still experiencing some technical issues, but we'll try to keep tabs on these guys. Currently sitting in 2nd, Jean-Paul Niehaus has got quite a bit of gap to Backham, and then it's a little ways back for Rudy DeVitt sitting in 2nd. But that's not the most important thing. Even though these guys want bragging rights of winning in their class, right now everybody is worried about the point situation. Radicals still sitting on 53 points in the lead. iRacing Denmark is sitting in 2nd on 46 points, and not far back in 44 points is Bilstein Motorsports. So it's pretty close for 2nd, but right now a bit of a blowout by the Radicals.
Absolutely, and that doesn't really surprise me. The Radicals do everything from HPDs to MX-5s. They're a very fast group, and they can drive basically anything. So, of course, when you hear Radicals, you always think of guys like Paul Ilbrink and just destroying
We've got
everybody.
a battle for the lead, and the Kia is actually, Paul Ilbrink is following Koen still, but Koen took a look on the inside out of the hairpin on Bob Van Katwijk. They're all 1, 2, 3 in a row. Katwijk is holding them off as they head up into turn 2. But no passing into there this time. Ilbrink continues to take a much, much tighter line than everybody else that I've seen in these Kias. His car must be set up just slightly different and really be able to get the car to turn in and grip on that corner.
Yeah, and it's amazing how it looked like he took a little too much curb there, but he came out all right. The car didn't get too unsettled, and he was actually able to carry a lot of speed. So, Koen Gerards, if I'm Koen Gerards right now, I'm thinking, how do I get Paul Ilbrink off my butt?
Yeah, I mean, he is in the worst of this situation, as we see. That was Pascal Tennyson that went off in the MX-5s to let those guys by. But yeah, Bob Van Katwijk only has to worry about defending. Koen, on the other hand, he is trying to find a way past, and he's trying to hold back a very fast Radical racer behind him as they head through the hairpin. Paul taking a very wide line, trying to get himself a launch. Doesn't seem to have worked as he's dropped a bit of time.
Yeah, and Paul just lost a big chunk of time, but he's made up so much time already just having to fight through traffic and manage everything else. I think he's going to get it back. We have a long ways to go yet. We're only on lap 10 of 60, and we're only about somewhere around 15 minutes into the race. So we have a little bit of breathing room still, and now we see Bob Van Katwijk under attack here from Koen Gerards. He's going to make it. Bob defends on the inside there. Forces Koen off a little bit, but he's going to lose that time. But, you know, I'm starting to think Koen Gerards is starting to have his car come alive. Maybe his setup is more geared for the long haul, Joe.
It could be. We'll have to see how that plays out. Again, they have pit stops to worry about as well, and there's a lot of debate. We were talking to one of the drivers before the race as to whether or not it's faster to do a 2-stop or a 3-stop. So some of these guys will start to reveal their cards as we get into the race. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Anders Dahl a little bit back, sitting in 4th. He's got Tim Claessens behind him, who has lost position starting in 3rd and is trying to get himself a little bit farther back up, hunting down that red and white Kia of Anders Dahl just ahead of him.
Yeah, and Anders Dahl has put on a good show right now. He's been very consistent, not the fastest guy out there. Now with Tim Claessens right on his backside, it's going to be very difficult for him to defend. It looks like Tim Claessens actually got the better of that carousel run, coming down the back straight. This car isn't really known for drafting. It's a front-wheel drive car with just limited aero package, but they are making it work. And it looks like Tim Clausen is not going to get Anders coming through these corners here into the hairpin. It looks like Anders did have a little bit of a bubble, though, so we'll see if Tim gets him through the S's. I doubt he'll have the room to make the pass, but right now, Tim Clausen is making up a lot of that time as he's already caught up to Anders Dahl once again.
And we have to apologize. It sounds like we unfortunately won't be able to get Richard back in here. He is having some serious issues. Hopefully we can get that resolved, but in the meantime, it's going to be just me and Brian today as we continue to watch Anders Dahl, very closely followed by Tim Clausen coming up to the hairpin as they knock over a few cones along the way. Look, he sticks his nose in, just tips Anders Dahl, and has to back out of it. These front-wheel drive cars really invite some very tempting passing into that hairpin.
Yeah, and that was a very lucky move for Tim Clausen as he almost eats a whole bunch of tire barriers. Those things are known to destroy cars, so it's very good that Tim was able to back off in time before hitting that. Anders Dahl, on the other hand, getting a very short little brief second to breathe, see if he can make a little bit of that pace up now. He doesn't have to worry about being defensive through these corners, but up in the front, we got Congeritz, we got Bob Van Catwick, and Paul Elbrink all battling 1, 2, 3 and not slowing down one bit, so that's very tough pill to swallow if you're trying to catch back up to those three drivers up ahead, Joe.
Yeah, and we just saw glimpses of them on screen. You can see them as they head around as Karun Garatz actually defends into the carousel. Nothing for Paul Elbrink to do through there. They're coming out upon some more traffic as they work their way past Pedro Van Balen and the MX-5s down to the hairpin. Good passing zone into here, but nobody's close enough. But look at Elbrink just close like mad in the braking zone. So it looks like these guys are still going to stay nose to tail. Let's hop over to the MX-5s and see what's going on over there. And it sounds like we got a battle between Robert Vitta and Martin Hilligers, and we were watching these guys, or at least Hilligers, I believe, a little bit before, and this is for 8th and 9th position between these two.
Yeah, and we're looking at right now Martin Hilligers in that blue and yellow MX-5 as we come around turn 1. Everyone in the MX-5 is running a really short, slower time compared to the Kia, so it's going to look a little bit slower on the screen, but however, the racing is intense. We've seen a lot of MX-5 racing here, Joe, and they always put on a good show here at Sonoma. So right now, Martin Hilliger is going to look to defend from Robert Vitt. Arnold Giebens just back there out of the picture, but he's not really going to be able to catch up and make what's a threat for the top 10 at the moment. Excuse me, 9th place. So these two guys going at it. I haven't seen a whole lot of give and take as far as trying to pass one another. They've just been racing pretty clean and waiting out the time.
Yep, and I think we're actually going to be able to make the time on this because it's supposed to be about roughly 100 minutes on here. So I think they should be able to squeeze it in quite comfortably for all 60 laps in those Kias. Meanwhile, sounds like we got a battle up front for the lead as they're working their way past a bunch of MX-5s. Elbrink has already got his way into second, now heading into the braking zone. He tries to find a way past, but he's got more traffic on the outside in the form of an MX-5. Has no way to get past, so he has to stay in line. Now they head into the S's. Is he going to get an opportunity as they head towards the hairpin? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and Paul Elbrink looks like a vacuum right now. We just took that huge gap out from Bob Van Catwick. He's already caught back up with them. Coming through the S sessions. They don't look very close right now, but wait for the braking zone here into the hairpin, and you'll see how close those drivers really are. I will not be surprised if Paul Elbrink makes a move for the lead with the MX-5s right in front. Bob Van Catwick's going to defend, it looks like, and try to make it on the outside just beyond the MX-5s. They get slowed up way too much. Paul Elbrink almost into the back of Bob Van Catwick. Bob gets away through. The MX-5s are both letting them by. Paul Elbrink on the outside trying to make it work, just barely grazing the wall. Bob Van Catwick's going to defend into turn 1. Everybody's being nice and clean, and that was some very good sportsmanship from those MX-5s letting the lead 3 cars through. Now we got to worry about Congeritz, who's no longer defending. He can go flat out here, try to catch up with Paul Elbrink and Bob Van Catwick once again, Joe. Very intense battle here up in the front.
Yeah, Elbrink is on a charge. Remember, he started in 4th, already up to 2nd, and looking to capture 1st. I wonder if Elbrink is maybe on the 3-stop strategy while Catwick is going to try to stretch it to 2, because the way that Elbrink is able to make faster laps and really get through everyone, he seems to be just pushing so much harder. Now, one thing also to worry about with these guys as they head onto the backstretch once again is the tire wear. They've got a new tire model here on iRacing just recently, and the tires are wearing out a lot quicker now, especially in these cars.
Absolutely, Joe. And I've been testing a lot of these tire wear things at some of the higher downforce cars. I haven't gotten a chance to drive the MX-5 or the Kia, but just driving the new Indy car, the DW12, it seems like they wear down about 10 laps faster depending on the track. So depending on these cars are set up, we might see a lot of these guys running very quick and then all of a sudden disappear out of the sight of the lead. So it's going to be very interesting to find out who has the car set up the best and who's saving their tires the best, and if any of that is actually something that can be controlled, or is it going to just be left up to the mercy of iRacing to determine. Now we got Paul Elbring making a very good pass. He goes on the inside through the hairpin, makes it look very easy. Also, we have Cone Gritz trying to make it around Bob and Catwick in that blue and yellow Kia. Paul just took away the lead, and we didn't even think he was going to go for it. He just kind of weaseled his way right through there and didn't even lose any speed there, Joe.
I really think he has got his car hooked up on the front because he's able to really hug the apexes in a way that none of the other guys can today, and that has helped him a lot in passing through some of these tight corners. Bob Van Katwijk, meanwhile, slotted down to second and already being hunted by Koen Gerards in third. This is going to give the Radicals all the more points up at the front.
Yeah, and the car you might have seen on the corner of the screen there was Michel Pastima in the MX-5 spinning in turn 2, just led after the front three Kias made their way through. Michel unfortunately spun and was able to keep it off the wall, but lost a ton of time. We'll see if Mr. Pastima can get back into the race, Joe.
Well, it looks like, as I check my standings, the Radicals are now up to 60 points. Meanwhile, still only 46 for iRacing Denmark. However, Bilstein Motorsports with Martin Hilligers and Bob Van Katwijk are at 45 points. So even though Bob has been moving down the order just a little bit, Martin Hilligers seems to be making up for it, getting themselves up into third.
Yeah, and sorry to go back to the front battle here, but Bob Van Katwijk is caught Paul Elbring, who just had a major slide. He's off the track. He's going to save it, but he's stuck behind an MX-5. The Bob Van Katwijk gets the inside of the hairpin. He is going to force his way around 3 wide. Bob Van Katwijk gets the inside line, forces Paul Elbring out to the outside. Also coming through is Cone Garrett. Doesn't quite have enough speed as he's going to be on the outside with an MX-5 working as a pick. Bob Van Katwijk just capitalized on a huge mistake for Paul Elbring in that Kia Optima.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of this today. They are having a very tricky time with these MX-5s working their way through traffic, and once again going very wide for Bob Van Katwijk coming out of turn 2, and this has allowed Elbring to close right back up on him. They've got another MX-5 trying to work his way through. That is Eagle Sandfeld trying to keep himself out of everybody's way, and 1, 2, 3, they all get by. So now that things have switched once again, Radicals I'm seeing are at 57 points. Bilstein Motorsports at 48. Bilstein Motorsports now moves up into second place now at 48 points. So iRacing Denmark has slotted down, and that is Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld in that third position in the points right now.
Yeah, and I'm just keeping an eye on this battle here. We got Bob and Catwood coming through the hairpin right now. Paul Elbring just behind. Once again, just hugging those apexes very well. But Cone Gritz looks like he's got a lot of pace now. Bob's kind of pulling away and just took a huge gap out. And, of course, now Paul Elbring's going to have to be a little more defensive with Cone just on him. So the front runner, Bob and Catwick, all of a sudden got a big gap in the next two positions, second and third, battling very close. Try and get that second position and a chance at going for the lead later on in this stint.
Well, after all that excitement, we finally got a little bit of a gap between Elbring and our leader, Bob Van Katwijk, as they've been swapping back and forth, even though it's still pretty close between Gerards and Elbring. So it sounds like we were debating if we were going to hop to break to see if we can fix a few technical gremlins. I'm not sure if we still want to do that. There's still some debate going on in the background here. Sounds like we are actually going to go to break now that we have just a little bit of a breather. We'll try and keep an eye on this battle and come back if things heat up once again, but we'll be back in a moment.
And welcome back to the gathering of Sonoma 150, folks. We have had a number of technical issues. Well, I apologize for that, but we are back live again. I have to catch up now with all the action. So at this point in time, I will hand over to Joe to call some of the action. Brian as well. You guys go ahead.
Well, amazingly, Koen Gerards has worked his way into the lead. We had a 3-wide exit out of the hairpin while we were on break, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that on replay. So right now, it's Koen Gerards in the lead, Paul Ilbrink in second, Bob Van Katwijk all the way down into third. So that battle for first and the Kias is still very much on.
Yeah, absolutely. And what started it all was Paul Ilbrink trying to force his way up the inside of Bob Van Katwijk, going into the hairpin. It looked like Paul got just a little too much understeer, forced Bob out, and that opened the door for Koen Gerards, who just made his way through. And that was like kind of juggling. All three drivers switched positions in some way or another, so that was a very impressive move for the front runner now, who's Koen Gerards. And then, of course, we have Paul Ilbrink just behind him, Bob Van Katwijk, who's had streams of a huge gap and a lot of pace today, but he has not been very consistent. I'm wondering if his tires are starting to wear out now as we are coming around this next time on lap 20, 1/3 of the race, Joe. So we've seen a lot of action in this first half of the race, or excuse me, 1/3 of the race, and it's only going to keep getting better and better with these front three because they're still right on top of each other.
Absolutely, and we're still watching Paul working his way around the track at the moment. So, Richard, it seems like we've got a lot of action. It sounds like you're going to be taking over overall, and I'll be hopping over to the MX-5s here.
Well, by all means, do that, as we do see some very, very close chin in the Kias right now. Paul Ilbrink, who is in second place, starting to challenge Koen Gerards for that number 1 place at the moment. And we are going to hop over to the MX-5 so you can find out what's going on over there, my good friend.
Well, Matt Backham is still leading, has had a nice handy gap for quite a while to Jean-Paul Niehaus. So he is very comfortably controlling that MX-5 race. And then in third, Rudy DeWitt is just a little bit ways back. So there's not a whole lot going on up front. We have had some battles going on between Martin Hilligers and a few other guys as he's worked his way up quite a bit, actually. He's currently sitting in 8th, and he qualified much farther down. In fact, I think he was well past 10th in qualifying. So Martin Hilliger is currently on a charge in the MX-5s.
Yeah, and of course the much faster Kias are starting to, well, not starting, they are passing the MX-5s as well. And the speed difference you can actually see there as the number 22 of Martin Hilliger is being passed by the 34 car as we speak. So they have this to contend with as well. And of course the Kias have to worry about the lap traffic or slower cars coming past. So as you say, not too much action going on there. So why don't we hop back to the front and find out with Brian what is happening with that challenge that Paul Ilbrink was having on Koen Geerts.
Actually, I'm looking at Anders Dahl right now as Tim Clausen is peering down on him. I just wanted to give them some recognition since we've been covering the front three for so long in this race. But up ahead, up the road, we have the three still racing pretty hard. Bob McCatwick, Paul Ilbrink, and Koen Geerts, all right on top of him. Bob making a good run on Paul Ilbrink. He doesn't have enough room to get it done on the inside. Now, as we also have Paul Ilbrink trying to catch back up to Koen Geerts. Koen was lucky the last lap around, caught some MX-5 traffic, was able to get around on the inside some of those corners, saving them a bunch of a gap. And everyone now is looking very racy. But, you know, I'm starting to notice Koen Geerts is going a little bit wider and wider on those different corners, not always because of MX-5 traffic, but I'm starting to wonder if his car is about at the end of its rope as far as grip goes. Because we're on lap 21 now, and these guys are having some issues keeping the cars in the black stuff.
Well, we did talk about tire wear, and I'm here to tell you, having run quite a few laps in the MX-5, there is a drop-off. It's not as significant a drop-off, Joe, as in the Kia, I would imagine, because the Kia is a lot heavier, but there will be a slight drop-off of tires there as well. But certainly the guys in the Kias are going to feel it a lot more than the little MX-5s, the MX-5 being a lot lighter.
Absolutely, and we see a scary moment here from Paul Ilbrink as he comes around trying to find his way past, who is this up in the front, Koen Geerts, as they go on the outside. And as we see Paul Ilbrink diving down pit road, we have an MX-5 right behind him. Joe, do you see who that is?
I did not. I'm going to try and check up and see who exactly is headed in.
Well, in the meantime, Bob McCatwick has a little ways to go now with a little bit of a gap. Not anybody to defend or worry about being defended by, so he has a little bit of room now to catch back up to the front of the pack. It looks like we're about reaching the pit window, though. I would not be surprised to see other cars coming in this next time around or soon after. We are just under 40 minutes way through the race, so right now, Richard and Joe, these guys have got to be feeling the tire wear and the stress right now.
Yeah, and that was Martin Hilliger's heading in. We should see a few more of these MX-5s take their pits very soon, since we are exactly 1/3 way through. Since most of the MX-5s are going to be trying a two-stopper, it's going to be a little bit predictable. I find it interesting that we've got Kias that are still attempting the two-stopper instead of the three, especially with how these tires wear out.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Joe. And like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to test how bad the tire wear actually is in some of these cars with the lower downforce, but guys have definitely been showing signs of running out of grip, especially right here as we see Koen Geerts and Bob McCatwick both going a little bit wider than they have in the past in the hairpin, working their way through the S's. They've just got to be feeling pretty burned out on those tires right now, and I would not be surprised to see them putting in this time or next time by.
We were hearing from one of the drivers before the race that the drop-off in a stint in the Kias is anywhere from 2 to 3 seconds a lap. So if you're willing to gut it out for a long race, and it sounds like the leader's in.
Yeah, we have both Bob McCatwick and Koen Geerts both coming in. Now we're going to see if Paul Ilbrink pitting in just a lap before, if he has enough pace to get through, or if MX-5 traffic's going to slow him down and not give him the advantage. So that being said, we see plenty of cars coming in, Joe. So definitely time for the pit window to open up.
A quick update, Mac Backham has taken his stop. The leader in the MX-5s has been through, and I believe a few others have. I'll get back to you on that.
Well, guys, it'll all shake out in a few minutes' time now with all the pit stops. Of course, the standings will be skewed a little bit, but certainly I am very, very interested in this tire drop-off. Certainly, guys have gone 1/3 of the race. If they want to maintain any kind of pit strategy, they had to do that. So most of them came in on about lap 22 and 23. So that is roughly a third of the race, and it'll see them have one more stop, probably for tires again as well as fuel, and then they'll be able to go through to the end. Those who are attempting a two-stop strategy, I think they're gonna be fighting for grip from about lap 30, because we heard that even after 10 laps, Joe, the Kia's tires start to drop off.
Yeah, and just a quick update, Jean-Paul Niehaus has stopped. Eagle Sandfeld currently sitting in third, taking his stop. So our second place driver has gone in. So the positions on track should be accurate between Backham and Paul Niehaus.
All right, well,
Well, guys, as far as the team standings are concerned, where are we at with that? Let's have a look.
Well, it's a little bit confused because since we're having the pit stops, it was tied just a second ago, but now it just updated. iRacing Denmark is being shown in the lead, but it's only by 1 point ahead of the Radicals. I'm not sure if they've taken their stop yet, though.
I got to jump in, guys. Paul Ilbrink just came out of the pits just right in front of Kungeritz, who is now trying to warm those tires up. He takes a little too much curb, loses a lot of speed coming out. It's obvious Paul has that extra lap worth of advantage right now. That was an impressive run by Paul Ilbrink, who capitalized on the empty track. It seemed like all the MX-5s and Optimas went in at the same time, and Paul Ilbrink had a track all to himself to get those tires warmed up and also make up some time in the process. So great move by Paul. He is now the race leader, I do believe, and I have not seen Bob and Catwick, so I could be wrong on that. Excuse me as we try to get that sorted out. And it sounds like I might have screwed that up. Sounds like we have a couple cars doing 3-stoppers and others doing 2-stoppers. That is why it appeared the way it was. So I apologize for getting that mixed up. Back to you, Joe.
Strange development. Mac Backham has come in for the second consecutive lap, and he is back out sitting in 8th place right now from what I'm seeing. So our leader in the MX-5s has taken his second pit stop right away. I'm not sure if he's able to just simply do a really long stint or what's going on here, or if maybe he forgot something in his original pit stop.
Well, Joe, it may well be a penalty. Maybe speeding in the pits, he got a stop and go penalty or something like that, because it is most unusual for a car that is not broken to stop on 2 consecutive laps. I'm pretty sure there's a penalty involved there.
That's very true. I think that's probably a good guess. Right now, he actually came out in 9th and just passed Arno Gibbon for 8th now. So he is, in fact, now into 8th. But oh man, he is going to have a lot of work to do.
Yes, certainly. There's a whole bunch. It looks like in that class, it might be Rudy de Wit leading overall at the moment. But we still have to wait until they complete a whole lap and the pit stop shakeout before we'll know exactly what is happening. What we're seeing right now, our guys that may as well have stayed out.
And it looks like we're on Ilbrink and Gerards, who are both battling very intensely as they make their way into the hairpin, just getting past that MX-5 on the outside. It looks like still Ilbrink has the pace, but Koen Gerards not very far behind. Has been trying to keep up with him this whole race now. Right now, it looks like coming through the S section, Paul Ilbrink's car is definitely hooked up, as we were talking about earlier, Joe, with the way that he's been hugging those apexes and getting the most out of his momentum, rolling through some of these hills of blank crests. I think Paul Ilbrink has the car to win this race today, if I could be mistaken. I've been wrong before.
Well, as I checked in, and Richard was correct, Rudy de Wit has finished his pit stop, so he is our effective leader at the moment, and Jean-Paul Niehaus is just a little ways back, and it seems like the MX-5s have been separated a whole lot more in this race, Richard, than the Kias. The Kias are just all on top of each other, and the MX-5s can't seem to get a grasp of each other in sight.
Yeah, we've got a fascinating battle in the lead of the Kias there with Ilbrink and Koen Gerards, as Brian has said. But in the MX-5, it's a little bit more spread out by the looks of it. Rudy de Wit certainly leading this. Rudy de Wit is a very, very useful driver, by the way. We've seen him driving in a number of different series and leading this race. And Jan-Paul Niehaus as well. pity we've lost Mac Beckham there. He has got to work his way up from about 8th or 9th place right now. But I think with the length of this race, we will still see him feature at the end, particularly with more pit stops to come, Joe.
Yeah, it is possible for him to try and make up that time. I have been noticing that Backham's had some connection issues. He seems to disappear momentarily here and there, so his internet might be acting up on him, and that's certainly not going to help him try to weave his way through the field.
As we see Kia just passing him right now, and he gives way, gives plenty of room for the Kia to get by. So the number 16 car, pink wheels, I'm noticing, and he is certainly traveling at a good pace right now, but a lot of work to do to catch up to the guys in front of him. So if I'm not mistaken, by now most of the guys will have been in the pits, those who are going to pit. So we should be able to get a pretty good understanding of what the teams are doing right now, Joe.
Absolutely, and I'm wondering if we could hop just a little bit back, sitting in 10th and 9th. Michael Mellis, we were watching him a little bit earlier. He has now caught up to Martin Hilligers and looking to improve one more position. So we got a battle going on here for the final spots in the top 10 for the MX-5s.
Yes, and it's quite a good battle just in front of him, Martin Hilligers, as you said, and Michael Mellis starting to attack now as they go through the top of the hill there. Coming into that right-hander, he has fallen back a little way, but now we've got a Kia coming through. That's going to upset the apple cart a little bit. It gets past Michael Mellis quite easily, and now the Kia will try and pass Hilligers, which he does. Ooh, that was a bit dicey there, Joe.
Yeah, he certainly slid that one up the inside. That was Marco Derricks working his way past, and he kind of slowed them up both a little bit equally, I'd say, in that situation. So no harm, no foul. Everybody managed to get through fine there. Mellis working his way around the carousel, trying to close up a little bit more ground. He was, I guess, slightly closer before that Kia worked his way through. Let's see what he can do into the braking zone of the hairpin.
Yeah, he's coming up on the on Hilligers right now. He's still not close enough to make any kind of move, but he is closing, and he's looking a little bit more pacey, I would dare to say, than is Hilligers at this point in time.
Guys, I need to jump in real quick. You might notice that Paul Ilbrink has gone down to 4th place and lost a ton of time to Koen Geratz. That was because coming into the hairpin, Koen gave Paul Ilbrink a little bit of a nudge, and it's basically spun him out of control into the end of the runoff area of the hairpin. He did lose quite a bit of time, and that has hurt his rear suspension a little bit from what I've seen. No visible damage, but he's running very slow compared to what his last couple of laps have been. That has definitely been a game changer for Paul Ilbrink right now. So we'll see if he can get it back under his control and catch back up to Koen. But right now, Paul Ilbrink has lost a significant amount of time.
Now, let me just try and figure this out here, Brian. At the moment, we are showing Stefan Overgaard still in the lead. Now, he has not pitted at this point in time. Well, we are getting information from our director that he has pitted. So our leader is Stefan Overgaard with Josh Van Hoorn in behind him. So Koen Geratz, Paul Ilbrink, who are battling away, are actually battling for the 3rd and 4th place. Is that correct?
Absolutely, but it's due to the pit strategy. Some guys are trying to make it in 2 stops, so they're stretching it out to literally the last ounce of fuel, or until their tires give out. And then there's other guys who are trying to take a more mathematical approach and using every bit of optimum grip and momentum they can. So they're doing a 3-stop schedule. So it's going to be interesting with the way the MX-5 traffic is going right now to see who's actually going to benefit more from it.
Quick update, guys. We've got a black flag for Koen Geratz for avoidable contact. Looks like he ran into Paul Ilbrink a little bit ago.
Yeah, that was the contact I was mentioning.
We're getting all kinds of action. A black flag for Koen Geratz we hear for avoidable contact. We've got a fierce battle happening up front between Stefan Overgaard and Josh Wern. We should not miss that as well. And we don't quite know what's happening with the MX-5s until we're going to have another look there. But certainly we've got battles all over the place, and we will have to have eyes all over in the back front of our head as well to make sure we are capturing everything we can. Yes, and getting information from the director that the strategies are totally different for Stefan Overgaard and Josh Van Horn, possibly. And here is a good battle happening here, Brian. Let's stay with this one because it looks like Josh Van Horn wants to take away that place from Stefan Overgaard.
No, that's Congrats. That's Congrats and Josh Van Horn.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds like what we've got. We have a few three stoppers. That would be Gerards, Ilbrink, Dahl, Claessens, Van Katwijk, Geressen, and Derelix. However, Overgaard and Van Horn are the only ones that are doing 2 stops in this race in the Kias. So that's what's going on here with these guys. They're playing the strategy game.
Okay. So let's run down the standings. So in the Kia standing, Stefan Overgaard legitimately leading this race right now. Behind him is Koen Gerards, who is legitimately in 2nd place right now. Paul Ilbrink then follows him, and then Anders Dahl, and there's been a change for position there. It looks like Tim Claessens is in the 5th place. So that's your top 5 in the Kias. What have we got in the MX-5s, Joe?
Well, the top 5 right now, Rudy de Witt is leading, followed by Eagle Sandfeld. Jan-Paul Niehaus is sitting in 3rd, Timo Verhest in 4th, then George Britton is in 5th. Also, a quick update, I gave some incorrect information. Koen Gerards did not get a black flag. He got a warning for the avoidable contact, so he did not get a black flag penalty. However, with George Britton being in 5th and Stefan Overgaard being, I believe, in the lead, if I heard you guys, yes, he's still in the lead is what I'm seeing. This should make you happy, Richard. Asbury Motorsports is leading the points at 52 points over iRacing Denmark right now.
Well, I should just explain to the viewers that, in fact, both Stefan Overgaard and George Britton, part of Asbury Motorsports, a team that I am involved with as well. I race for Asbury Motorsports. So, of course, Joe, I'm absolutely loving this.
Well, as the race continues on, I did have myself a little battle going on somewhere in the MX-5s. I think it was still Van Hezek and Michael Mellis. Or no, actually it's become a bit of a 3-car race. They're not quite close right now, but it's Martin Hilliger sitting in 8th. 9th is Michael Mellis, and then 10th we have Ronnie Van Hezek. And these guys all have been having a bit of an ebb and flow. Every time a Kia comes by, they get just a little bit separated, but then they get close once again. So these guys could have some opportunities. We'll have to keep half an eye on it. I'm not sure if we've got a better battle going on in the Kias, Brian.
Well, right now I'm looking at Bob Van Katwijk trying to chase down Tim Claessens. Bob's definitely the faster of the two. It seems like Tim, the second half of the race, has just kind of fallen off, and he's had a long ways to go. So right now, Bob Van Katwijk is all over the back of Tim Claessens as I hear the director trying to get Richard's attention there. Apologize for the pause. But Tim Claessens just looking very racy today. Had a good start to the race and then all of a sudden just lost a lot of pace. So it might just be a car setup issue or maybe the traffic's been playing a lot of tricks with his head, Joe. But definitely it's safe to say that he's safe from Bob Van Katwijk right now despite Bob Van Katwijk's speed overall.
Well, meanwhile, just a little bit farther down, Dujan Boldrin was having a time trying to get through these MX-5s that I was mentioning just a little bit earlier, and that's allowed Aaron Mulder right on the back of him. And these guys are very close. I'm not sure if you got your eye on them now that these MX-5s have closed them up.
Yeah, Dujan Boldrin, 13th place right now, Josh Van Horn in 12th, so it looks like they have been kind of shuffling around quite a bit. Dujan Boldrin, though, I'm kind of surprised to see him so far back. I'm wondering if this maybe just isn't his car. We've seen him in other series be very fast, and today it just seems like he's not quite up to the pace or the standard of the pace. So, unfortunately for him, he's going to be stuck towards the back of the pack, Joe.
Yeah, having a bit of a hard time, and sounds like Dujan Boldrin has actually already had 2 stops. I'm not sure. Actually, I know he got a warning before. I'm not sure if he had to take a penalty for anything after that. I can't quite recall, but man, the battle between himself and Mulder certainly is staying quite hot right now.
This is actually
well,
starting
guys,
to make
I'm going to
some
jump
more
in
sense.
just a moment. I do note that there's been a change for the 5th position, in fact the 4th position. George Britton has moved, or had moved, past the guy behind him, which has just changed once again, but he is up to 5th place right now, as we see Kia's coming through and overtaking them going into the final turn. George goes quite wide there to avoid any contact, and he's doing pretty well. I'm not going to keep harping on it, even though they are Asbury Motorsports, my team. But every time I see him making a move forward, I will not hesitate to make mention of it. So good race from George Britton, and also great racing from Stefan Overgaard up front there, who has now come in. He has come into the pits, obviously, because he's dropped right down into 14th place by the looks of 11th place by the looks of it.
And just a quick update, though, on George Britton. Even though he's managed to get up to 5th, Mac Backham, remember, he was leading early on and quite definitively before we think he got a penalty for speeding in the pits. He is sitting in 6th and closing quite fast on George, so George's 5th place could be under threat in a few laps.
Yes, Mackham is a superb driver. I've seen him drive a number of different cars. Absolutely superb in any car that he drives. So I would feel that George is going to be under threat in the not too distant future. But it's a long race to go. We are currently on lap number 32 of 60, so we've just passed the halfway mark. So plenty of action still to come. I would imagine that Stefan Overgaard, who has dropped down to 11th place at the moment, Brian, that would change the team standing somewhat.
Yeah, and we're actually looking at it right now. According to this, iRacing Denmark .dk number 1 has 52 points, followed by Radicals with 48. The underdogs are in 3rd with 46. And 4th is Leone Corsa with 42, and in 5th is Asbury Motorsports, the team that Richard is definitely in love with. So that's your top 5 in the team standings currently, Joe.
Yeah, well, they've actually dropped another position just now from what I'm seeing, so they're down to 6th at 40 points. Bilstein Motorsports has moved themselves up into 5th at 41 points, so it's all kind of shuffling around. We got a lot of pit stops still happening. I think we're going to get a much clearer picture when we get into the final 15 laps or so of this race.
Yes, and we should mention again, we've done previously, that some guys are on 2-stop strategies, whereas others are on 3 stops. So that dropping down into the 11th place for Stefan, if he can make it through to the end of the race, we will see something, we will see him regain that first position possibly. But right now it's Koen Gerards leading this race with Paul Ilbrink behind him, Anders Dahl in 3rd place. And it looks like the gap is something like 3 seconds between Koen Gerards and Paul Ilbrink. 3.1 seconds I'm seeing now, so not exactly a race at this point in time. In the MX-5s, Joe, how close are we between the leaders there, Rudy de Wit, Eagle, Sandveld?
Well, it's not terribly close at the moment. Rudy de Wit currently heading into the hairpin. It sounds like we got a good battle going on.
That's Eric Mulder.
Best slop. That was Best Slop just coming into the final turn there, going back into turn number 1. They were side by side. There was also an MX-5 involved in that. And right now, Kenneth Jones, I think it was ahead of Best Slop. These guys were very close to having an accident, but they managed to avoid that. They are back on track. They are traveling once again. They've passed the MX-5. They're coming up on another MX-5 as well now. So these guys are battling for position. So a good little battle happening here, Brian.
Absolutely a good battle going on. And, it's funny, right when you switch to that side-by-side moment, Eric Mulder and Dualjan Boldrin also were having a little bit of a side-by-side moment. It definitely got my heart rate going because I wasn't quite sure which battling we were focusing on, Richard, so a little bit of confusion there momentarily.
Yeah, but we do have a real battle going on here between Best Slop and Kevin Jones, I believe it is. So the director has his cameras firmly on this battle, and they coming out of that carousel section now, and there we see the MX-5, Joe, behind them going for a trip down the grass.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who that was. Jeroen Ursum, actually, who is now rejoining the track on the backstretch. He's sitting down in 13th. He's not been having the greatest of races, but he's got it going again and has rejoined safely. It looks like I don't see any damage on the car, so I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, there's no damage. He was just off into the weeds there. He's back on track in that lovely pink car. There's a little story behind that which we'll get to later. But back to the action with the, oh, now we're watching Dujan Boldron, who actually gives the car in front of him, that's Josh Van Horn, a little love tap there. So these guys, I'm sure Josh wouldn't have liked that as they pass an MX-5 as well. Thick and fast the action is right now. Brian?
I believe we're looking at Dujan Boldron and Eric Mulder. Let's see if I can get back on the right battle
Mulder
here. Yeah, and I'm looking at Eric Mulder right now in that yellow and red Kia Optima, trying to chase down Dujan Boldron, who's just quite a little ways ahead of him, going through the hairpin. It's just amazing, Richard, to see how far into the inside they go and manage not to hit those tire barriers that are keeping people from cutting the track. Right now we got Eric Mulder just a little ways back, trying to make the most out of the start-finish line. He got a better run, it looks like, than Dujan as they come through turns 1. Eric Mulder goes just a little wide. This is a bumpy track, easy to get it wrong as we see those disc brakes glowing with heat, and everybody just kind of fouling through. So right now this battle is kind of becoming a non-battle as we come back to them.
I wonder if we could...
And we're getting information, Bob Van Katwijk and Anders Dahl, by the looks of it, there's a battle there as well. So we're going to Anders Dahl right now on screen, being followed by Bob Van Katwijk. And they are quite close, and there's a car in front of them as well that may be a lap car. I'm not quite sure. That is position, so we've got a 3-car train here, Brian. Let's get in on this action.
Yeah, we got Anders Dahl here, Bob Van Katwijk, and I don't quite see who that is. I think that's Tim Claessen's car. He's currently in 3rd place, so this is 3, 4, and 5 racing as we come down the hill. But going down through the carousel just shortly here, well, it's going to be interesting to see what Bob does, because he has been the fastest of the 3 in the race, was able to hold off Koengeritz and Paul Ilbrink for quite a while at the beginning. Unfortunately, with the way his pit strategies went and the course of traffic, he has lost quite a bit of time, and that's why he's sitting at 5th place right now. Right now, we got Tim Claessen's in 3rd place, coming up to the hairpin. Is he going to defend? He defends slightly. It looks like Anders Dahl had a little bit of a turn in it. He's going to get it just on the inside. It looks like Anders Dahl is going to make it. No, he does not. Tim Claessen's was able to carry more speed as he takes that extra wide runoff area. Bob Van Katwijk lost just a little bit of speed. Anders Dahl right in the middle of him. Kind of like the situation we had earlier in the race. He has to defend and try to get away around into 3rd place, but right now Anders Dahl is in the trouble seat as he is under stress from both the 3rd and the 5th place drivers. Richard, good battle forming here.
Fantastic battle. These guys were not afraid to go side by side as they come up on an MX-5. They're going to that final turn now. They nose to tail coming out into the little straightaway leading to the left-hander, which is turn number 1. And the action, let me tell you, these guys are handling those Kias beautifully. It's a difficult car to drive, but these guys know what they're doing. And Bob Van Katwijk, Anders Dahl, and of course the Tim Claessens as well. 3 in a row, and who will come out on top, we have yet to see. But we'll follow this battle for a little while longer, because it does seem to be a great battle.
Absolutely, and Bob Van Katwijk lost a little bit of time, but he's going to make it up very shortly as we have 2 MX-5s just in front of Tim Claessens, who's sitting in 3rd place currently. Right now, Anders Dahl's also got a good run because the car in front is kind of getting log jammed as we come through the carousel. It looks like Anders Dahl had a little bit of a bobble, his tires coming a little ungripped there, as we see also now Bob Van Katwijk trying to get around those MX-5s. Everyone gets through nice and clear. Once again, coming down the back straight into the hairpin. Tim Claessens doesn't have as much room to defend now, so he's going to have to make a move a little bit earlier if he wants to keep Anders Dahl off his tail. Anders has a little bit better turn on once again, but I think Tim Claessens is going to try and take that wider exit, trying to keep as much speed up as possible. Looks like that is successful, so Anders Dahl is still going to have to settle with 4th place as we have Bob Van Katwijk in 5th coming through the S's, a little ways behind.
And a quick note about those MX-5s, let's stay on this battle. It was George Britton and Timo Verhest that those guys were working their way past, and that is for position between those 2 MX-5s for 4th and 5th.
That is correct, Joe. I was about to make mention of that fact. They are battling for position. This battle here between the Kias is fantastic, I must say, with Bob Van Katwijk.
We need to hop back to the MX-5s real quick,
Let's
because
go
now
back
George
to the
Britton
MX-5.
is making a
Go
move
ahead.
on the inside. And he has worked his way past, and George Britton has now moved up into 4th place, getting past Timo Verhest in the hairpin.
Well, that's some fantastic driving there. Timo Verhulst, I should say, not giving up though. He's right on the back of George Britton, determined to try and get that position back. However, George puts the foot down as they head uphill, and Timo closes up once again. They'll be coming into the carousel in a few seconds. They go into the carousel right now. Timo tries to get back, but does not make it at this point in time.
Actually.
And let me tell you, George, both of them driving fantastically. Shut up, director. We're talking at the moment and you're interrupting. So at this point in time, there is a Kia as well in the mix there, Joe. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, they are now they are in the carousel actually as they head around. George Britton still leading the way, but all this battling allowed Mac Backham to close up significantly. He's still not quite right in the battle, but I'm not sure if we can get glimpses of him just behind them on the screen as Timo tries to hunt that spot back down. We're getting into the closing stages. These guys are on lap 33, although we are on 37 overall, with the Kias having completed quite a few more. So these guys, I believe, should be hitting this final pit stop very soon, since most of the MX-5 should be doing a two-stopper.
Yeah, and let's just lay it out for you. George has now managed to kind of shake off Timo Verhoest, but we did see in the distance, not that far behind, Joe, we did see Mac Backham on the horizon. So I expect him to be a factor in this battle. And bear in mind, we are talking about 4th position in the MX-5 class right now.
Absolutely, and as the clock continues to tick down and the laps continue to tick away, like I said, we're getting into the final stages of this thing. Just a reminder, Racing Denmark still leading with Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld in the lead at 50 points. Underdogs, Rudy DeVitt and Bas Slob sitting in second at 48. In fact, tied at second with the Radicals also at 48, and that has just changed. The Radicals are now up to 49. We've got a battle for the lead.
Yes, and they side by side. Brian, this is some very, very fierce racing going on, and this is for the #1 spot.
Absolutely, and I'm trying to get caught up to you. I lost Koen Grit's number as I go over there now. I'm caught back up. There we go, and now Paul Ilbrink is coming through the S section, I do believe, as we come down into the hairpin just after this corner. Ilbrink has been showing a lot of pace. Just before this pass, he was as far back as 3 seconds at one point. It was making up around 5 or 6 tenths per lap. So Paul Ilbrink definitely has his car on rails as we see him just barely staying off those tire barriers coming through the hairpin. We got an MX-5 just in front, but he is going to probably get out of the way. The MX-5s have been very good about staying out of the way of the lead cars in the Kia Optima and also giving some room when needed in the other parts of the track. So right now we got Koen Gritz trying to catch up with Paul Ilbrink, who has just kind of overtaken the throne here and is now starting to run away.
Yeah, he's moved a little way ahead now of Koen Gritz. Koen is not giving up though, and Tim Kleisens and Anders Dahl, those guys were battling behind them. But this is the battle for the #1 position. It is pretty tight at the front there, and of course with the lap traffic coming into play as well, anything could happen. But right now, 1 and 2, Paul Ilbrink and Koen Gritz. But no serious battle at this point in time. They're just holding station, but they're coming up on a whole bunch of cars as well. So we'll keep an eye out to see what happens as they get through that other traffic. A whole bunch of MX-5s, 1, 2, 3 of them just up ahead of them, and then some more lap traffic as well as these guys work their way through. Whoa, they do it so easily, but I tell you what, sitting in the car there, it has got to be fairly intense as you make sure that you do not have any kind of contact with these cars, because that will certainly upset your day. And they do manage to get it done, and nicely as well, Joe.
Yeah, let's stay on this, but just a quick update. Jean-Paul Niehaus has kicked off the pit stops in the MX-5s. He was up into 3rd and has now come out in 7th. He's going to slot his way back up as others work their way through, but he is the first one to pull the pit stop card and has completed everything. Now at this point, it's all just going to be down to making those passes on track.
Correct, and as we've had the cameras everywhere, but I don't recall when we've actually had the cameras on the leader in the MX-5 class, Joe, Rudy DeVitt and Eagle Sandfeld. these two guys obviously doing a great job being in first and second there.
I think he's going to have to wait because now Mac Backham has finally caught Timo in fourth position there. So it looks like Mac Backham is going to try and get himself one more spot as he tries to climb up his way through the field after some problems with his first pit stop. They're now coming through that treacherous turn 10, and they've got, who is that behind them actually? That was Boss Slob working his way through. And look at that, advantageous as Mac Backham doesn't even wait for the braking zone and manages to get by Timo Verhest out of turn 10 as an absolute gaggle of Kias blow by them as they now complete yet another lap on Sonoma.
Well, I gotta tell you, that was pretty hairy there, guys. That last turn, turn number 10, is a very tricky turn with those tire barriers there. You don't want to keep the car too wide, otherwise you mess your exit up completely. And with a couple of Kias coming through there, that was a very hairy moment there for Mac Backham. But he handled it beautifully, and now he goes up the hill there. He's past Timo Verhust. The next one in his sights, of course, will be George Britton, Joe.
Yeah, and he has been closing down for quite some time, but he's still got a little ways to go. And the way I've seen George battling, I think he's going to make life plenty hard for Mac, especially this late in the race.
Well, George Britton is up to third place overall in class, so doing a good job there. But let's get back to what I was saying before. The leaders in the class, Rudy de Wit, Eagle Sandveld, we've hardly had a camera on them, so let's go and have a look. I know there are battles all over the place, but let's go and have a look at these guys leading this class.
Yeah, Rudy he did not start in front. In fact, he started in second, so he was on the front row at least, but he has slotted his way into first. Eagle, on the other hand, he started in fourth, so he's gained 2 positions since the start of this race, and that is legit, even though he hasn't stopped for his second stop yet, because he was in second before Jean-Paul Niehaus had come in as well. So Eagle Sandveld doing a great job, just kind of running a nice quiet race up in one of these top positions, and that's helped his team. Oh, we've got some action.
There was an accident there. We're getting it on replay right now. It's I'm looking at the 13 car, the 14 of Stefan Overgaard coming to pass the 13 car. And they go in together into turn number 10. That is extremely risky. Stefan trying it on, coming out of the turn, and he gets turned by the 13 car. That is not a good move on the behalf of the 13. Stefan Overgaard has to now he's facing the wrong way. George comes past him, as does Mac Backham. Lots of action there. Not what you want to see at this stage of the race there, Brian.
Absolutely not. Stefan Overgaard again must be furious with that outcome, because it looked like he had a little bit of a run, given that he had a kink on the inside wall there, and he would have had to slow down a little bit for the outside car. But even though, just one of those things that you think, we just did 42 laps clean and with a lot of respect, and then something little like that, like loss of focus, is just very frustrating for both drivers in that situation.
Well, that is not going to be good for Rudy de Wit, who had helped his team since he's leading up into second in the points. Boss Slob, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a penalty for that one, because his car kind of was where it shouldn't be in that turn-in.
Absolutely, and I'm looking at the points chase right now. The underdogs, Rudy de Wit and Boss Slob.
And I'm sorry, we got to break away because Mac Backham is making a move on George Britton. He's working his way up another position, and he does it in the S's. That is impressive stuff. Gets a good run to the hairpin and captures yet another spot as he tries to make up for his early mistake.
And we see a Kia coming by them as well. George not giving up though. The Kia now safely past Mac Backham. Tucks the car into the curbing, and they come down to turn number 10, the last turn. George has dropped off just a little bit, probably for safety's sake, because we've got another Kia coming through as well. But he is still keeping pace there with Mac Backham, but I do suspect that Mac Backham will have an advantage. He is a terrific driver, Mac, and now he starts to pull away a little bit from George Britton. George? Joe?
And yeah, just as I suspected, drive-through penalty for Boss Slob, avoidable contact. That is going to hurt the underdogs. They were sitting in second, and the points only 1 point behind the leaders, the Radicals. So that could have been a chance for them, and they just blew it, I think.
Yeah, they will become the underdogs now. So at this point in time, the battle is still on. George not giving up at all. He is if anything, he's caught up a fraction on McBackham as they come down into that. Wow, this, I tell you what, this is a great track. Not one of my favorites, but it certainly has some really good views when you look at cars traveling through those undulations with the you know, the changes in elevation. George still hanging on to the back of McBackham there, Joe.
Yeah, he's definitely not given up. He isn't close enough to make anything happen. But you know, with this traffic, the ebb and flow, you never know if you're going to get an opportunity. And at the end, that could make the difference between third and fourth, a podium, and just kind of walking home with a couple points in your hand. So he's losing a little ground through these S's as Backham starts to stretch his lead away, get himself a gap. But you never know what could happen. And Backham could make another mistake somewhere along the line too.
Correct, and with all the traffic, as we see, two Kias coming up on
wide.
George and Mac. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
a
three-wide
confused by
situation, and Kroon Gerard's actually just headed into the pits, and still a battle going on in those Kias just ahead of them there, Brian.
Yeah, that was Dennis Garis, who was not even racing Koen Gerard, so I'm not sure why he was being that aggressive. Needless to say, though, Koen went down pit road. That was a little bit of a hairy situation, and his pit stop was coming up anyways soon. So it's probably just thinking it's time to get off the track before something stupid happens.
And
Joe,
Britton
just,
has headed into his pit stall. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just keep in mind that George Britton followed Koen Gerard into the pit, so you're not seeing him behind McBackham anymore. It's because he's decided to pit as well.
Indeed, he is just pulling out of his stall right now.
Dennis Garrison, we have some contact there. They well, didn't amount to much in the end, but there certainly was a touch between the two of them, and they came up on the MX-5 as well. But they continue on, and I believe that is a battle for position. Dennis Garrison and Anders Dahl in the 03 it is, and the 25. So these guys battling hard now for position, and that is for 7th place overall. So a good battle here. It's no wonder none of them were giving any quarter coming through that section where they had the contact.
Yeah, it makes more sense now with as well with Paul Ilbrink coming around the S's, excuse me, with Koen coming around and going into the pits there. We had like 4 cars going in the hairpin. Dennis didn't want to give up a lot of space there, so I kind of understand the situation better now that he's in a battle. And right now I'm looking at actually Paul Ilbrink as he's coming up around Bob Van Catwick, who I believe is now going to be just passing. So Paul is showing a ton of pace today. He went in the pits just a lap before Paul Ilbrink, so he has a lot of room to play with now, but he has to get around Bob Van Catwick if he wants to further his gap for the lead.
Yes, and Paul Ilbrink and Bob Van Catwick in a battle side by side. The position given up though by Bob Van Catwick. Bob is in 2nd place in the number 17 car, and they once again side by side. So none of them giving up here. This is a great battle. Bob Van Catwick and Paul Ilbrink, the 41 and the 17, battling for what is in fact the number 1 place, Brian.
Yeah, and these guys went at it for a long time at the beginning of the race. I think it was like the first 20 laps. There was a 3-way battle between Paul Ilbrink, Koen Gerrits, and Bob Van Catwick. Bob was actually able to lead the first, I would say, a majority of the laps, was continuing on with his pace, even getting a big gap at times. It wasn't until the pit windows opened up and then he started losing time, and that was due to a lot of factors such as traffic, having a kind of an off at one point, and some other incidents. So Bob is definitely capable of keeping up with Paul Ilbrink, but he has to get it done now because we are on lap 44 and time is running out very quickly.
Yeah, that's correct. Lap 44 of 60, so about 16 laps left in this race. All the pit stops by now should have been finished, or they should be completing their last pit stops for those who are going to make pit stops. So in a lap or so we will have the standings. In fact, this probably, Joe, is the exact standings in both classes right now, and the position you've got now is the position you will have to try and improve, because you're not going to get another position by pit stops any longer, I would imagine.
Probably not. And in fact, Mac Backham is just headed in for his pit stop. He was up into third, and I believe, actually, I'm not sure if he's going to lose anything because Pascal Lam is a long ways back. Everybody else has really taken their stop. In fact, George Britton is behind Pascal Lam. That's interesting. I wonder if Pascal has not done his stop yet, since George has. In fact, I'm pretty sure that would be the case. However, with Mac Backham now taking his stop, he and Paul Ilbrink have the Radicals up into the lead. They weren't momentarily ago. The underdogs were in the lead, but they have slotted down into third at 45 points, and they are just behind iRacing Denmark at 53. So it's still only 2 points separating the top two, the Radicals and iRacing Denmark. And the iRacing Denmark cars, they're Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld. Eagle sitting in the lead, but he has yet to make his stop, I believe, so that is going to change soon.
Yeah, Eagle Sandfeld has only done one stop at this point in time, so he definitely does need to do another one. Rudy de Wit, on the other hand, has done 2 pit stops, but he is back quite a ways from Eagle Sandfeld at this point. Mac Backham in the 3rd place, he will be under threat if he does have to make he just made another pit stop. But George Britton also made a pit stop just before that, so that's not going to change things much there. So the standings as they are in the MX-5 class seem to be about right. These guys will have to do it now out on the track and get what position they can. On the other hand, in the other class, we note that Paul Ilbrink has had 2 pit stops, Bob Van Katwik's had 3 pit stops, and the others have had 2. Poor old Stefan Overgaard has had 4 pit stops, so he's really been the big loser in terms of time on the track. So that's what we've got at the moment. Paul Ilbrink leading this thing, Bob Van Katwijk in 2nd place, and Koen Gerards in 3rd place, and Anders Dahl, who we are driving with at the moment, he is in 4th place, followed by Tim Klaassen. That's your top 5 in the Kia class. What's the standings, Joe, in the MX-5 class?
Well, currently Rudy de Wit is leading now that Eagle Sandfeld has pitted, and he is going to come out in 2nd, and we've got a side-by-side battle.
Side-by-side action going on between Anders Dahl and Tim Klaassen, swapping positions at this point in time. Fierce battling. This is for the 4th position, and there's contact, Brian, but they get away with it.
It's hard to say right now if they took any damage. They went side by side. It looks like Tim Klaassen's got a little too much curve, and that unsettled his car. Couldn't get it to turn in enough. And then Anders Dahl coming around the next bit of the S's almost got spun completely sideways. He did about a maybe a 90-degree corner, and was able to catch it. That looked like net code. I did not see actual contact between the 2 cars, but it was a very scary moment for Anders Dahl, who's carrying on with minimum damage, but that might affect him because we still have another 14 or so laps to go.
That is correct, and I'm not quite sure how much it has affected him, because as they go back to the top of the hill, he certainly is not losing out in speed at this point in time. Meanwhile, the guy behind him, which is Tim Klaassen, seems to be under attack by, is that Dennis Garrison just behind him. So there's action thick and fast here as they lined up about 3, 4, maybe 5 long in the train battling for position here, Brian.
Absolutely, and Anders Dahl, I'm just very impressed with his run today. He has had adversity from everybody in the field at one point, it seems like, so he has been working very hard to keep Tim Klaassen off his back, and now I believe we have Dennis Garrison, who's also coming in, and Marco Derricks, who's just behind him. All of them coming together here in the last bit of the race, and Anders Dahl, despite all the bobbles and little juggles and crazy things that have happened to him, he has had a very, very, very good run today, so you gotta give him a lot of respect.
Absolutely, and this is a 3-4-way battle here, so we will keep an eye on that as we check in once again with Joe to find out what's happening in the MX-5 class.
Well, right now I'm taking a look down at 8th and 9th, and that's between Ronnie Van Hezek and Michael Mellis. And these guys are going very hard still. In fact, they've been fighting for a fair bit of the race. They've got the leader behind them, Rudy de Wit. In fact, they've got an MX-5, or I'm sorry, not an MX-5, a Kia coming up as well. It's going to separate this battle just a little bit as they go wide through the carousel. Mellis trying to get a nice, good run as he's being lapped as well. The question is, Is DeVitt going to give them room? No, in fact, Mellis is going to back out of it, and very polite, almost too polite racing, and he's going to lose an opportunity here.
Yeah, and now he's right in the middle of that three-car pack of MX-5s, and the two MX-5s, Joe, going side by side there. Who is that?
That is our leader DeVitt, who is putting Van Hezek a lap down. So that's not for position. However, it is for position between him and Mellis. Mellis gets a run. He's closing in on the back. Now they've got a Kia coming up the inside into turn 10. Not a place you want to go too wide. Whoa! Very close. Momentum lost for Van Hezek, and that is just going to allow Mellis to breeze on past.
And guys, you would not imagine how difficult it is, what we just saw on the screen there, how difficult that is to accomplish with trying to keep your car in a line, or on a line I should say, with another car coming down at you at maximum speed. That is absolutely hairy stuff. As we see now coming to the front, it looks like that may well be Stefan Overgaard passing that Mellis battle as well. So these poor guys in the little MX-5s are being monstered by these Kias.
And that was Kenneth Jones, who absolutely barged his way through turn 10. That was just slightly rude and brave of him, but he made it work, not without just a little bit of help from poor Van Hezek, who's now lost his position.
Yeah, and that, look, this is multi-class racing. This will happen. We've seen it in Continental Series. We've seen it in other series as well. Some of the ones that we do cover. This is multi-class racing. If you are in the slower car, you have to give way to those faster cars, because you most of the time you will come out second best if indeed you want to tangle with those faster cars.
Well, at the moment, things continue on as they were. However, up at the front, Rudy DeVitt still leading. Eagle Sandfeld in second. Mac Backham is in third. George Britton in fourth. And Timo Verhest is in fifth. However, I will say that there's not much that could change up there unless someone makes a major mistake. So Mac Backham cannot improve on his. Eagle Sandfeld, his team is in second. He's not likely to improve. So right now, it's up to the Kias, if they're close to each other, on making any sort of changes in the championship points.
Well, talking about the Kias, let's check in with Brian as to what is happening in the Kia situation.
Right now, I'm keeping an eye on Bob Van Kavik, who's been catching up exponentially over the leader, Paul Ilbrink, coming through the hairpin right now as we see a bunch of MX-5s getting out of the way, coming through the final turn here. And we have one car up ahead. I don't know who that is at the moment, but it's not really important because Bob Van Kavik's coming up through turn 1 and has a lot of slower traffic to slow down Paul Ilbrink, so that will be a good chance for Bob to get back into the battle. But just behind them, that train of cars is still going on with Anders Dahl and the gang, so everyone's still holding file and racing very close and hard, just trying to get through traffic here on lap 50. You have 10 laps to go, Richard, and a lot of things still happen, so very intense racing here in the final moments of the race.
Absolutely, and now we are, as you say, in the last 10 laps of this race. Lap number 50 they're working at the moment out of 60, so a lot can happen in 10 laps. This is a fairly long track, so they are going to be covering quite a bit of distance to complete those 10 laps. So a lot can happen, as we said, and there are a number of cars pretty close to each other battling for position, and that will mix things up certainly. So at this point in time, everything settled down a little bit, I would imagine. Joe informed us that there's not much battling happening in the MX-5 class, so I guess we'll stick with you, Brian, and this battle in the Kia class up near the front.
Well, it sounds like we're actually keeping focus on Anders Dahl, so let me get caught back up over there. Right now, Anders Dahl coming through the S session. We have a blue MX-5 just up ahead. Right now, Tim Clausen is peering down on Anders Dahl, who's actually lost a little bit of pace since his little contact with Clayson earlier on. Just behind them, we have Dennis Garrison, and I believe Boslav is the white car that's just behind them. So right now, we got a three-way battle going on. Tim Clayson is going to go up the inside, trying to defend from Dennis Garrison. Anders Dahl is going to capitalize and use that little bit of extra time lost from the defensive move from the other two to get away and try to get around this MX-5 on the inside. Just shoots the gap. That was not a very good move there, but he made it work somehow. That MX-5 waited very long to decide if he was getting out of the way or not. but everyone appears to be safe as Anders Dahl comes up through turns 2 and 3 into the hilly blind corner crest section of the track. That was a very scary moment for Anders there, Richard.
Yes, indeed, but he did get away with it, as he got away with the contact that happened a couple of laps ago. They come up now on another MX-5, heading down that hill again. Lots of elevation changes here. You've got to be aware at all times of what is happening. There are some blind crests as well, but the battle continues, and these guys are doing, I must say, they are negotiating these very tricky turns with excellent accomplishment along with the car that is very difficult to drive in the Kia.
Yes, indeed, and I'm looking at Anders Dahl as he's going to try and take a little bit of a narrower line there. Tim Claessen's definitely had his number through that hairpin throughout the race. He takes a typically a little bit wider line, using that little bit of runoff to gain his speed back up. Using the front-wheel drive in this car, it's very easy to understeer this car, get down the gas too hard. So there's a little bit of a different driver style, but right now Anders Dahl has actually got quite the gap. So right now it seems like Tim Claessen doesn't really have the speed to keep up with Anders Dahl, as long as Anders has nobody to slow him down in the front of his car.
Yeah, and we just saw... Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, we need to remember one thing in all this championship stuff as well, that if they have so many, more than 6 incident points, they're going to start to get point penalties. So some of this that we've been talking about in the championship points could change after the race, especially guys like Paul, who has taken a couple taps here and there.
Yes, yes, we should keep that in mind. Good thing you pointed out that, because the actual standings that we call at the end of this race may be changed a little by the administrators due to penalties being handed out. But we are concerned with the battle on track at this point in time. Anders Dahl, followed by Tim Claessen, pushing as hard as he can to catch up. Dennis Garrison has fallen back a little bit. I was going to say that Dennis Garrison, there was a perfect example on screen of a faster car having to wait to pass a slower car. Coming through the S's, Dennis Garrison was held up by MX-5. It was a very risky place to try an overtaking maneuver, so he wisely waited, and that is really the reason why he's fallen back a little from the other two up ahead. But the Claessens and Dahl battle continues, Brian.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Claessen's right now. Anders Dahl has an MX-5, it looks like, on the instead of the S's, so it's going to slow him down temporarily. It looks like Tim Claessen's got a big run. Anders Dahl kind of tipped his car just a little bit, bled off some speed. He's going to have to defend going into the hairpin if he wants to keep this position, but it looks like Claessen's got on the brake a little bit early there, so he didn't even have a chance to make a pass. Right now, Anders Dahl coming through the final turn of the track here on lap 52, going on to lap 53. Dennis Garrison just a little ways back, and Tim Claessen right in the middle of it all. So right now, Anders Dahl, it seems like he's having some handling issues with his car. That's not the first time I've seen his back end come way loose, as we see it kind of bobble once again coming over the hill. Tim Claessen has made up a lot of time there as well. So I'm starting to think Anders Dahl has a little bit of something wrong with that car, maybe related to the impact he had with another car earlier on.
Well, it may just be that the tires are reaching the end of their grip levels at this point in time. Bear in mind, we are close to the end of the race, and if these guys have worked their pit stops out correctly, around this time is when the tires should be really off. As we see a battle here, Koen Gerards, and is that Bob Van Katwijk in front of him? Yes, it is indeed. A fierce battle happening right here. Brian, this is worthy of a few words from you.
Absolutely, and Bob Van Katwijk makes a good move there. See, where is he at on the track? Oh, he's coming through the final corner here before coming to the hairpin. We'll definitely have to see what happens here, as he is under attack by a car coming down the inside. He doesn't even defend. It looks like, I think that is Koen Gerards, as he's just going to go on. And Bob Van Katwijk goes very wide, heading right for the tire wall. His tires have to be spent because his car would not turn at all, and he just gave that position up without any kind of fight. So, unfortunately for Bob, that's definitely not looking good for him right now.
Well, Koen Gerards certainly made it look easy, but that was a tough place to attempt a pass, let me tell you. And he has picked up a position now, so that puts him in second place overall. behind Paul Ilbring. Does that, Joe, have any effect in the standings of the teams?
Well, right now, what I'm seeing, and this might update because sometimes it takes a second, the Radicals are sitting at 55 points, and iRacing Denmark is sitting at 50 points. So there's still a 5-point swing, barring any incident penalty points. So right now, with Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld, did Anders make up anything recently, or?
Anders Dahl, no, it was between Kungaratz and Bob Van Katwijk. Kungaratz got past, so I was wondering whether that affected his team points.
Well, Bob Van Katwijk is currently sitting in 4th with Bilstein Motorsports. He's with Martin Hilliger, so I don't believe that had a direct influence on them, because Kungaratz is a little ways down, tied for 6th actually in Leona Corsa.
Right. Okay, well, certainly coming down to the closing stages, the drivers are working lap number 54 going into 55, I believe. So at this stage, everything is tired. The car is tired. The driver is tired. And we still have 5 laps to go as we see the leaders come through. Now, Paul Ilbrink leads this race. He is in the number 1 position. Kungaratz in 2nd place with Bob Van Katwijk in 3rd, Anders Dahl in 4th. And we're looking at Bob Van Katwijk on screen in the number 17 car at this point in time. In the MX-5 class, Rudy de Wit has pretty much been leading from beginning to end, with Eagle Sandfeld behind him, also in 2nd place for most of this race. There has been some action between Mac Backham, George Britton, Timo Verhoest at times, Joe, but everything's settled down now. This might well be the finish if everyone can hold it together for another 5 laps.
Yeah, the guys in the MX-5s at this point are just trying to settle in, trying to grit their way through, these final laps. Like you said, they're probably getting very tired, very mentally worn out, always having to keep an eye out for these Kias and see if they're going to try and make another crazy dive. So it's all about minimizing mistakes at this point. Any of these guys up at the front have got their spot if they can just hit their marks and not do anything stupid.
Yes, indeed. And our director has showing us the action from Rudy de Wit, leader of the MX-5 class. He's had an extremely quiet race, and you know what, Joe? That is the preferred way to do things. Have a quiet race, stay out of the limelight, because that means that you're winning.
Absolutely. It means that you've got this thing sewed up, and Rudy definitely has just about the entire race. Mac Backham led it early on, and I feel bad for him because it was just such a minor mistake and it hurt him so badly. But speeding in the pits, even in the virtual world, is very much frowned upon, and this is what we suspect happened to him. So, and it bit him just like it would anybody. So little mistakes can come back to haunt you, and I really think Matt could have had something to say about Rudy leading the way in this thing if he had not made that.
And I believe we're hopping over to the Kias. Brian, we've got a battle developing, in progress I should say, between Joris Thielen and Dujan Boldrin, I believe.
Yeah, these guys have been going at it for quite a while now as we see them preparing to go down the carousel. It looks like Dujan Boldrin's been just outrunning him slightly, but it's really been a non-battle. I haven't really seen too many passing attempts. These guys have just been kind of coexisting and racing around the track and dodging traffic and trying to get as many points for their team as they can. But of course, that might change here in the next 5 laps, obviously, now as we see who is that? That is Joris on the outside trying to go around the outside. Not really easy to do here through the hairpin, but he does got a lot of speed coming out as he goes around Dujan Boldrin through the S's, makes a good move. Are they going to have contact? There's quite a bump. Dujan Boldrin going for a ride. He cuts the track. He might get a slowdown penalty for that contact. I will not be surprised to see a black flag out of that situation, because that was a very, very dangerous bump. It sounds like I'm also hearing contact
I think you're
somewhere else
correct
on the
there.
track.
That was a uncalled for contact, I believe. He did not give enough room. However, these guys are battling for position, and one can be forgiven with a tired car as well. So you may have an excuse. It'll be up to the administrators to figure out what to do in that situation. But certainly, Dujan Boldrin has lost that position now to Joris Thielen, and the race continues on. This was for 11th and 12th place that these guys were battling for, but still very interesting to watch and to see these guys maneuver these quite heavy cars around what is a really tight track. But at this stage we are on lap 57, not a hell of a lot of laps left. I'm going to go to Joe now and just get an update from Joe. What's happening, Joe?
Not really much to update, unfortunately. It's just been steady as she goes for pretty much everybody. I haven't really seen any action going on, and nobody's really close enough to do anything to anybody else. So everybody is just running their race. It might as well stick with the Kias for now.
Alrighty, and Brian, anything happening up near the front? Is Paul Ilbring still continuing to lead and doing it easily?
Richard, you're cutting out. I think my internet is starting to bug out a little bit. I'll let you guys handle that conversation as I go and resolve my internet issue.
All right, so Paul Ilbrink, we've got the camera on Paul Ilbrink at this point in time. Paul Ilbrink driving the 41 machine, and he is in first place overall. Behind him, Koen Geerts, there's a gap of about 2 seconds. So unless Koen Geerts has got something left in his tank, he is going to find a difficulty in catching up 2 seconds over the remaining couple of laps that we have here. In the MX-5 class, Rudy de Wit leading by quite a handy gap over Eagle Sandveld as well, so not a lot going to be happening there. The action at this point in time, I guess, is between Paul Ilbrink and Koen Geerts. We'll continue to watch and see if Koen Geerts can make up some time on Paul Ilbrink, or whether Paul Ilbrink will just run away with this thing. However, Paul is in, Koen Geerts really in and amongst a whole bunch of MX-5s, Joe, so there could still be something happening by way of a mistake or contact with a slower car or a car spinning in front of you. Anything could still happen.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 seconds is not very big in multi-class racing like this. You pointed out earlier, it can, the ebb and flow of the traffic could bring them back together at any moment. All it takes is a little mistake from one of them, or just catching traffic at the wrong time. Just a quick update though, Jos van Horn had a computer crash, and so he is currently out of this race, and that sucks, being so close to the end. We're on lap 58, getting ready to come to 59. Man, that is just got to be heartbreaking to be so close to finishing this thing.
Yeah, look, we will point out for the viewers once again, as we see Koen Geerts making a move. Was that a slower car that he passed? Or
that was a
yes,
lap down car of Philip Woodison.
So for a second there, I thought the battle for first place was on, but no. Paul Ilbrink is still ahead of Koen Geerts, so that was a slower car that he passed. However, it seems to me that the gap has not changed at all. 1.8 seconds, it was about 1.9 before. Koen Geerts pulling out all the stops that he can now to try and make up some time. We're on screen there with Stefan Overgaard. Stefan has worked his way back into 10th place. At one stage he was in 14th place. He's coming up on Kenneth Jones, so he has an opportunity, Joe, to make up one spot perhaps in the couple of laps, less than 2 laps remaining. But at this stage, everyone, I would imagine, just wanting to see the end of this race.
Yeah, Stefan definitely is making good of his pace. One thing that we heard a little bit earlier is they do have a spare car. Basically, if you damage your car in any way, shape, or form, if you head into the pits, you get a completely fresh new car. So Stefan has taken advantage of that some as he closes in, coming up to the hairpin on Kenneth Jones, and he's looking to the outside. That was very much threading the needle through there. He gets a nice wide exit, try to squares it off, but doesn't look like he's going to have a good enough run. He's going to have to wait for another better opportunity, maybe down into 7 as he continues to run around in 10th. I was going to say, one thing I wanted to touch on, we mentioned a little bit earlier, Jeroen Ursum currently sitting in 13th in his class in the MX-5s. You mentioned that pink Barbie paint. What's the story behind that one?
Yeah, he's put his car in those particular colors on behalf of his daughter. And there's a quite a long story attached to that. We won't go into that right now, Joe, but it is definitely it's something he's done for his daughter.
That's a very sweet gesture. As let's jump back to Stefan and Kenneth Jones still battling it out. Although we are on lap 59, so we should have gotten the white flag. And actually, our leader, we're still going to get to see this battle because our leader is just behind this battle.
Well, indeed, and the white flag is out. We understand, and the battle is still on. And behind them is Paul Ilbrink, the leader of this race. So very, very good pictures coming from the director there, as we see the number one, the car leading this race, coming up on what is a good battle. So this could be interesting. If I were Paul Ilbrink, I would just sit behind these two. I mean, they're nearly a lap down, obviously, and there is no point in him trying to get involved in this battle. So just sit behind, and it looks like Paul Ilbrink will come around the final turn for the last time. The checkered flag does come out, Joe. Paul Ilbrink wins this race. Behind him a couple of seconds back, well, less than a couple of seconds now, Koen Gerards, and then Bob Van Katwijk will come across the line for third place. What happened in the MX-5? Well, these guys are obviously still coming around.
Yes, and actually Rudy de Wit is just coming to the hairpin right now. Then he's going to work his way around the flat out turn 12, around the left-hand quarter, onto the front stretch. He's got nobody near him to challenge. He's just going to let Kia go on by. Rudy de Wit is going to win in the MX-5 class. Now, we said that the overall wins don't mean much except for bragging rights, but I'm sure these guys appreciate it anyways. And because of all that, and with Paul Ilbrink winning, that means that his team, the Radicals, Paul Ilbrink and Mac Backham, are going to come home in first, barring any penalty points. They have 55 points. And second, iRacing Denmark, Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld are sitting on 50. So it's going to be close if either of them had a very rough race out there.
Yeah, and guys, we still, Stefan Overgaard still hasn't finished just yet. He has attempted to pass Kenneth Jones. Has not made it work yet, but for them the race is not quite over, even though the checkered flag is out. They're coming around that final set of turns right now, and looks like he might not have enough. He closes right up on Kenneth Jones. He chooses the outside though. Kenneth Jones cutting very close into the tire barriers there, and I just don't think he will have enough to make it happen. So he will indeed finish in 10th place. Kenneth Jones will take home the 9th place overall. And for them, the race is now over as well. Joe, are there any other guys that still have to finish?
Those were the last drivers on track, so that is everybody across the line. We should head to break, come back with hopefully the official results, and do some interviews.
Welcome back to the Gathering of Tweakers Sonoma race, the 150. I have to say it was a very exciting race to watch. But right now, Joe, we've got all the results here. This is provisional. There may be penalties, of course, involved. But this is, a director's telling me this is the final result. So here we go. In the first place, the Radicals team of Paul Ilbrink and Mac Backham won this race with 55 points. In second place, iRacing Denmark with Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld came in second with 50 points. In third place, it was Bilstein Motorsports, Bob Van Katwijk and Martin Hilligers with 38 points. In fourth place, Asbury Motorsports, my team, with Stefan Overgaard and George Britton with 36 points. Fifth place were the underdogs, Bas Slob and Rudy de Wit with 36 points as well. In sixth place we had, and it's sixth place was gone off screen. There it is, back Leone Corsa with Kungaratz and Michelle Postima. Seventh place was 9 Lives with Tim Claessens and Pedro van Balen. And in 8th place, NSF, not suitable for racing, with Marco Derricks and Pascal Tennyson. 9th place was Happy Wheels with Joris Thielen and Michael Mellis. 10th place, the Brit Pack with Kenneth Jones and Andy Morgan. In 11th place, Racing Lions with Robert DeRoy and Arno Gibbon. In 12th place, Team Epic with Josh Van Hoorn and Ronnie Van Hezig. In 13th place, Droove Tutors with Eric Mulder and Pascal Laan. In 14th place, Virus, I love some of these names, with Dennis Garrison and Jeroen Ursem. 15th place, Talk Freak Racing number 2 with Philip Widderson and Timo Verhoost. 16th place, Rojas Racing with Robert Witt and Jasper Groeneweg. In 17th place, 8 or 80 with Dujan Baldwin and Arthur Hermont. And in 18th place, 7 points, Nordschlief with Klaus Peterson and Jean-Paul Niels. A disappointing finish there for Jean-Paul Niels. Those were the final team results. The race overall was won by Paul Ilbrink in the Kia class, and Rudy de Wit took away the MX-5 class. Joe?
Yes, and we have a few interviews before we go. First up, our winners of the points championship, Backham and Ilbrink, and let's see if we can pull them in here real quick. Mac, Paul, congratulations. You guys won the points overall, and it was definitely a hard fight for both of you. Mac, we have to ask, what happened for that second pit stop in a row? Was it speeding in the pits?
No, I missed my pit box because I was used to the qualifying pit box where I was almost up front in the pit lane. So I couldn't go back anymore. So and then I didn't have enough fuel to do like a proper lap. So I cut the whole track and I got a 2-minute stop and hold penalty, which so I had to pit twice and take the penalty.
Ouch, that's definitely seemed to have hurt you, but you did a commendable job coming back through the field. You made a lot of fantastic passes through there. What was that like?
It was pretty straightforward. People realized I was a little bit quicker, so they didn't really fight all that hard. It was just a few times it was really close with some of the Kias, but luckily everything turned out well.
Paul, we were impressed with the way that you could hug the apex on some of those tighter corners. Was it your setup that was able to allow you to sneak on the inside some of those times, or what allowed your car to be able to keep so tight in?
I don't know, really. I only tried one setup from somebody else that gave it to me, and it was pretty good for me, so I don't know if everybody else drove a different setup. I liked it.
Well, it certainly seemed to work for you. Was your qualifying a bit out of position for you? Because you definitely seem to have the pace on those guys up front at the start.
Well, I didn't prepare that much for this race, so I only did some laps yesterday and a couple before the actual qualifying. And I did a reasonably safe first lap, and I tried to improve, but I got an off track somewhere and put it in the wall. On the second attempt, and yeah, could have been faster, but it was.
I think it's safe to say you made up for a poor qualifying. Congrats to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Anders Dahl and Eagle Sandfeld, so let's pull them in and ask them a few questions here. Richard, would you like to talk to them?
Sure. We'll start with you, Anders. You had a pretty eventful race involved in quite a few of the battles that we saw on screen. Tell us about your race, because it certainly was interesting viewing.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Had a lot of very hard battles. I somehow didn't have the pace to follow the fast guys, so I had to fight my way to the front, I guess. And I think fourth was maximum of what I could achieve today.
Yeah, we saw a number of battles that you were involved in. Some of them they were quite hairy. There was a moment I recall where you made some contact and we thought you were gone, but you managed to hold the car together and kept going and kept your position as well.
Yeah, I found out that I could just turn the wheel and push the throttle and then it goes straight again. So I think I was lucky that more didn't happen.
Well, did you fancy your chances of getting up further? Your team did well in the standings, but I guess it didn't come out total winners, and that would be a little disappointing, or are you happy with the outcome?
I guess we are happy, but it's a little bit disappointing because we know that Meg had some problems in the beginning, and Paul Ilbrink, we didn't expect him to be that fast, so I guess a win was possible in first half of the race, and then we could see that they were too fast.
Right. Let me just ask you one final question about the handling of the Kia. Did you find that the you were suffering from tire drop-off after a few laps?
Oh yeah, it's a terrible car. It's just wheel spin if you, in the end, if you take care of the tires.
Terrible car. I love that. Okay, well, let's have a chat to Eagle Sandfeld. Eagle, your race was just the opposite. Very quiet, very uneventful. Just held on to that second position almost all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. I did have a very bad start as somebody rammed into me on lap 1. And it apparently gave me some damage, so I lost about 20 seconds to the leaders, top 3. And but it started to go better after my first pit stop, as I guess there were some repairs going on. And yeah, after that it was just cruising and making sure to not get any further incidents which could be subtracted to our points. So yeah, it was a good day, but it was also fun to feel how the tire fall off kind of reacted with the car.
Yeah, look, even though the MX-5 is a lot lighter than the Kia, obviously, we do understand that with the new build there is tire drop off to be concerned about in a long race. So it's interesting. These are, you know, one of the first races that we have covered where we see these cars having to work with the new tires. So you guys did a great job out there, and I guess you know, there wasn't you didn't spend much time on the screen in the broadcast because of how uneventful your race was, but I'm pretty sure you'll rather take that than being involved in battles and perhaps coming off second best.
Yeah, you're quite right. Often it's better to go under the radar in these longer races. It's just to get some solid laps in and yeah, complete stint after stint and get the job done.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, congratulations to yourself, Eagle, and to you, Anders. A great job today under what I would imagine would have been pretty difficult conditions. So congrats to you guys. And back to you, Joe, for the next interview.
Well, it sounds like actually we've run out of time. We've got another broadcast coming up, so apologize. We have to close up for today. We want to thank the organizers of this event, Nick Thyssen and Joop Willemsen, who are also the marshals today. Did a great job out there keeping everybody in line. Also, thanks to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, and AverMedia, the software and hardware we use to make these broadcasts possible. Thanks to the team today, Brian, Richard, and Kevin. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Thanks goes out to Doug Beard, who also creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing Channel. And a special thank you to Eric Ekholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Additional thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. Our next broadcast coming up real quick. That's the Week 13 Big Grid race for the SRFs. That's at Suzuka, as I said, today, Sunday, July 27th at 9:30 p.m. UTC. Then, of course, the Northwest Majors have their 2.4 hours of spa tonight at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss that one. Then the ASRS comes back at Pocono Wednesday, July 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern. After that, on Friday, the Ice Superspeedway Series takes on Daytona once again. That'll be August 1st at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then the VSRA Series comes back at Homestead Sunday, August 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. They are driving the DPs this season. It's going to be a great one seeing them wheel those things around. And then, of course, the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series returns at Mostport. That's Saturday, August 9th at 10:30 p.m. UTC. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.